Hudson and Bob Reinhardt joining us from the Baha'i Faith. I'll just give you a little bio about Carol. She was born in Inglewood, California, and went to school with one of the Beach Boys. She has been married 58 years to her high school sweetheart, Doug, and they have 2 sons and 6 grandchildren. Carol's spiritual foundation was in the United Methodist Church, and after moving to Rigby, Idaho, she and Doug embraced the Baha'i Faith 46 years ago. Residing in Post Falls since 1990, Carol is employed with the Post Falls School District for 22 years as a remedial reading paraprofessional, and she retired in 2013. And Bob was born in 1951 in Pendleton, Oregon, the youngest of 4 children. He learned about the Baha'i faith from friends and family while growing up there, and in 1969 declared his belief in the Baha'i teachings. He has served on the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i of Coeur d'Alene for the past 30 plus years. Bob graduated from the University of Oregon in 1975 with a degree in curriculum and instruction, and went on to a career teaching elementary school in Montana and in Post Falls, Idaho for 39 years and retiring in 2015. He has lived in the Coeur d'Alene area since 1982, and Bob and his wife Judy have 5 children, 12 grandchildren, and 8 great grandchildren. Awesome. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us. It's an honor and privilege to be here and to share our understanding of the passing from this life and what's beyond that, the life beyond. And I just want to express our deep gratitude and admiration for the work that you people do here. I think it's wonderful. It must be very rewarding, but also very, very stressful. Anyway, so thank you again for inviting us. I was going to start with, have any of you actually heard of the Baha'i faith before this came up? Just a little bit, okay. So I thought this video would be a really good overview of it. It's actually not presented by a Baha'i. It's actually a kind of a impartial person who's done coverage of different faith beliefs around the world. And so it's very accurate, very matter of fact and pretty comprehensive to give a basic understanding of what the teachings are. There's one thing about, since he's not a Baha'i, he mispronounces the name of our prophet founder, Baha'u'llah. And so it just, for us as Baha'i, someone who's been a Baha'i a long time, it's kind of like, fingernails on a chalkboard when he says it. So I just want to kind of point that out. But Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah, yeah. And we'll have more explanation about what that means and how that came about. So, okay. So anyway, since I'm not, even though I was a teacher, I'm not great about speaking in front of mobs like this. And so, so I thought the video would be a great way. Yeah, save me some stress. So, okay, here we go.
On world religions. Today we're covering what's called the Baha'i faith and the people practicing it called Baha'is. What is this religion? What do people practicing this faith believe? This is a superficial video, as you can tell by the length of the video, but hopefully this can help give you a zoomed out summary, and if you find it interesting, you can do some deep dives into the parts that intrigue you. The Baha'i faith is a relatively new one, dawning in the 1800s. A few key figures laid the foundation for the religion, including the founder of a religion called Babism, an independent religion springing out of Islam, just as Christianity was in relation to Judaism. The founder, a young Persian merchant named Sayyid Ali Muhammad, took the title of the Bab, meaning the gate in Arabic. His purpose was to announce and prepare the world for the coming of a manifestation from God, who would usher in an age of peace and justice, which has been promised in most of the world's religions. This can be somewhat equated to the work of John the Baptist, who was preparing for the arrival of Jesus in Christian religions. The Bab's revelation was, after Islam, the next in the series of progressive revelations from God that began millennia ago and have included multiple messengers, such as Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad. The Bab's revelation was the completion of the prophetic cycle, and the forerunner of a universal prophetic cycle. I could do a whole video on just this foundation, but it ultimately ended in the execution of the Bab, killed by the Persian government alongside thousands of his followers. We then have a man named Baha'u'llah, who claimed that he received a new revelation from God, and he claimed to be a messenger as outlined by the Bab before him. This was a blasphemy against his primarily Islamic state, so he was banished. He received many revelations and messages, reinforcing that he was on a vital mission. He was imprisoned on and off again for the rest of his life, eventually passing away at 74 in prison. Throughout his life, he wrote letters and books recounting his revelations, which would form the foundation for the Baha'i faith. His son makes up the third central figure, named Abdul Baha, who took these teachings and began to spread them across the globe, responsible for forming the body of what has become the Baha'i faith. While sprouting from Islam, you'll see that the Baha'i faith is a very different and unique religion now. Some compare it to the way Christianity evolved from Judaism to become its own unique identity, but still holding many historical and cultural facets intact. So let's look at what the Baha'i faith believes. A major aspect is this idea of messengers, or sometimes called manifestations of God. These are the leaders of world religions across time, like I mentioned Jesus or Muhammad, or even figures like Buddha, Krishna, Abraham, and Moses. Followers of the Baha'i faith believe that all of the world's major religions are fundamentally unified in purpose. They just differ based on the time in which they were revealed and the requirements of those eras. These messengers are all sent to transform the character of mankind, it is said. The three big foundational principles of the Baha'i faith revolve around the unity of God, that he is an unknowable essence beyond any description, the unity of religion, that they are all working to develop moral qualities in people, and the unity of humanity, meaning that things like racism and sexism have absolutely no place in our world, and each person has been created equal in the likeness of God. This all culminates in a unified world order where people from all nations and across all classes can prosper. The Baha'i faith has been at the forefront of interfaith efforts and promoting coexistence mentalities in an effort to bridge these religions that are often at odds. What does the Baha'i faith say about God? As I said before, he is unknowable, they believe, just as a table can't comprehend the carpenter who made it. All-powerful, all-knowing, eternal. They also believe God to be inaccessible, though they believe he showed purpose in our creation and he delivers new revelations through these messengers. Now, followers of the Baha'i faith do still pray, but they pray in order to achieve a spiritual state and to feel closer to God, to better their own conduct. The Baha'i faith is also fairly unique among most religions, that it has no clergy, again valuing unity amongst its members versus a hierarchy. The only authority, so to speak, is what's called the Universal House of Justice, created to settle any disagreements or attempts to fracture the religion. This body is 9 individuals elected every 5 years. Physically, this building resides in Israel on Mount Carmel. Across the world, there are spiritual assemblies, which are responsible for the everyday affairs of their members at local and national levels. Something is working when it comes to spiritual outreach, as the Baha'i faith is considered one of the fastest growing religions, somewhere between 7 and 9 million members worldwide. Many people come to this religion because of its focus on inclusivity, including its gender views. The Baha'i faith likens man and woman to the 2 wings of a bird, each essential, and balance is crucial in order to fly. So hopefully this helps you understand the basic gist of the Baha'i faith. Like all of my videos, this is incredibly superficial. To go into all the texts and letters that were written to form the Baha'i faith would be a daunting project. So if this is interesting, hopefully you continue your research and dive a little deeper on your own. I want to thank the members of the Baha'i faith that reviewed this scripting video because
Okay. Any questions from that? right off the bat, or?
It's interesting. I always thought it had come from Hindu and not Islam, so that right there fascinates me.
Okay, all right. I'll go into this just a little bit more. I'm kind of reiterating what's most of this was on there because that's a pretty good overview. So there's no clergy in the Baha'i faith. The affairs of the community are conducted by a 9-member administrative body elected by secret ballot, and that's known as the local spiritual assembly. And we've had one here in Coeur d'Alene for the past 50 years. So it's interesting on the Baha'i elections. There's no it's not like elections like we think of it. There's no electioneering. There's no campaigning. After prayerful consideration, the members just vote for the people they think have the best qualifications, mature experience and devotion and such that I think would be the best to serve the community. Okay, and then there's other appointed positions. That's a body is called the Auxiliary Board for Propagation or Protection, along with other educational and community roles. And these are individuals that have been appointed for service. They're not like clergy positions. They have no authority, so to speak. But they are people that have shown a lot of initiative and deep understanding of the faith, and they help out communities. Okay. So as it said, the oneness of humanity is the one central principle of the Baha'i faith. We believe in one indivisible God, one religion of God that have been revealed progressively. And some of the main teachings are unity and diversity, elimination of all forms of prejudice, equality of men and women, promotion of justice, of peace, and service to our fellow creatures and love for all creation, which includes, of course, our natural environment. Okay. So going back, as they said, it began in 1844 with the declaration of the Herald of the Faith, the Bab, which means the gate. His ministry was only 6 years and ended in his martyrdom, along with the martyring. He suffered a lot: imprisonment, beatings, poisoning, banishments, until he was. Wait, I'm sorry. That's a little messed up. I'm sorry, I messed that up. It was Baha'u'llah. The Bab was killed and also tortured, but the Baha'u'llah was suffered imprisonment, beatings, poisoning, and banishment until finally he was cast into the prison in Akka, which is in Palestine, by the Ottoman Empire in its attempts to stop the spread of the faith. And as it said, during the 40 years of exile, Baha'u'llah revealed a series of books, tablets, and letters that today form the core of what we call the holy writings of the Baha'i faith, comprising some 100 volumes. The writings describe the nature of God, the purpose of human existence, give new religious laws, and outline a vision for creating a peaceful and prosperous global society, which we feel will be an eventual outcome for humanity. And then following the provisions, I'm sorry, I think I skipped one here. Then Abdu'l-Baha was his oldest son, and he was appointed as his sole interpreter of his teachings, and he became quite well known. He was known for his service to the people in Palestine, and he traveled to Europe and North America, and encouraged new Baha'i communities to proclaim Baha'u'llah's teachings and proclaim the teachings of the general public. And his writings are also considered part of our sacred scriptures.
Can I add something?
Yes.
So I'd like to add, while he was basically a prisoner himself in Akka at this time of World War I, and Abdu'l-Baha had been able to have people grow crops in order to make a storehouse because of famine that was coming. And he was able to support the British military so they didn't starve to death. And as a result of him in Palestine at that time was knighted by Britain, and which is an interesting thing during World War I.
Okay. And then when he passed away in 1921, in his will, he designated his grandson, whose name was Shoghi Effendi, as his successor with the title of the guardian of the Baha'i faith. And it was Shoghi Effendi, with his vision during his ministry, he helped the religion spread around the world, helped us establish its local and national administrative institutions. And he passed away in 1957. And that ended the line of the hereditary leaders of the Baha'i faith. Okay. So the next step was following the provisions first established by Baha'u'llah, the Universal House of Justice was elected the first Universal House of Justice was elected in 1863 to direct the affairs worldwide. The 9 members of the House of Justice are elected every 5 years by members of the Baha'i national administrative bodies around the world. Again, through that same election process that I discussed.
The last election had about 178 national spiritual assemblies represented with 1,500 delegates that came to Haifa to cast their ballots.
Okay. And of course, as we mentioned, Baha'u'llah passed away in 1892 and is buried near Akka, and pilgrims visit to pay homage and it's where we turn to in prayer. The Bab's remains were also ceremonially laid to rest on Mount Carmel. That was in a spot that Baha'u'llah himself designated that they should be placed, and to his son Abdul Baha, who began those arrangements. And it also receives pilgrims and visitors. About 1 million Baha'i people visit the Baha'i shrine on Mount Carmel yearly in Haifa. And so this is, let me skip to this. This is where Baha'u'llah passed away. Of course, it's been, property. He ended his life in the house there. It was his whole family lived there, so that's why it's the size. And then he was buried in this building here, and that's the holiest place on earth. The Baha'is is where we go for pilgrimage. Of course, the land around it has been acquired since, and of course it's been adorned and
beautified,
and made beautified. So it's a very important place to us. And then the Babs. This is the shrine of the Bab on Mount Carmel again, where Abdul Baha began the process. He built a kind of a little, what do you call a burial spot there with a little building over it. And then during the time of Shoghi Effendi, the shrine was completed, and through his vision, and it's part of where we go for pilgrimage, and it's open to visitors from around the world. Like I said, 1 million people or so visit there.
If you see the terraces that are there, those were completed in 1992, wasn't it, or 2000?
Yes.
2000, I think it was. And the Bab was denied light when he was imprisoned, oftentimes in dark places and caves. And so they light up the terraces at night to give him light as a symbol of his being denied light.
Wow.
And the terraces represent his initial 18 followers.
And then
both been?
I was, we both have been. I was going to show you kind of the difference here. I went in 1976. I was still pretty young. And when I went, this is part of it now. This is up above. It's an arc, and so the shrine is over here. You probably can't see that on the.
It's just off to the right, the shrine of the Bab.
When I was there, the only one of these buildings here was what we call the archives building, where things associated with their lives are kept, and we're able to view some of their writings and original tablets. And then this is the meeting place, kind of the central nerve center where the Universal House of Justice meets, and offices are, and people that help them out are there. And when I was there, that was just being excavated. The excavation just taken place. So none of these buildings were there.
And when I was there, it had been completed.
Yeah. And this is what, Carol?
That's the International Teaching Center.
Okay.
And the other one is this study of the sacred text. And there's one more building yet to be built, which is it's a study of the sacred text is the one that's yet to be built.
Okay.
They haven't acquired all of the land yet.
Okay, and then let's see, I'll move on here. So then spreading out globally out of Israel, the Baha'i faith becomes the second most widely spread religion with over 7 million adherents. Baha'is reside in 100,000 localities. About 2,100 indigenous tribes, races, and ethnic groups are represented in the Baha'i community. And of course, those are seen as one people. We're seen as one human race. Okay. There are currently 188 councils, or what we call national spiritual assemblies, that oversee the work of the communities. There's a network of 300 training institutes which offer formal programs on Baha'i education around the globe. And the Baha'i writings have been translated into more than 800 languages. In Iran, where the Baha'i faith originated, there are now about 300,000 Baha'is, constituting the largest religious minority in that country. And of course, they're very seriously persecuted in that country. Yeah, mostly they're not able to have their national body isn't able to function, and they're denied higher education. It's pretty difficult.
And their cemeteries are desecrated, and their businesses are confiscated. And so even finding work is difficult for the Baha'is that are in Iran.
Yeah, when I read that, I'm like, wow, can't be easy for them now.
No, they're constantly arresting Baha'is and putting them in prison without jail and due process, and or killed.
This is just a gathering of what are known as continental counselors. They're people that through their lives have done great service to the faith, and they're just kind of like helping out national bodies and as advisors and helping them carry out their work. Again, it's not they have no authority as individuals. It's just they're there as kind of as servants. And there are currently 14 Baha'i houses of worship. These are Australia, Cambodia, Chile, Colombia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Germany, India, Kenya, Panama, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Uganda, the United States, and Vanuatu. And there's plans to build more around in Brazil, Canada, Malawi. And there's also local houses of worship. This would be in areas where there's a lot of Baha'is, that they're able to build those in Cameroon, India, Nepal, and Zambia. And this is just a picture of, I'm sorry?
Well, what's the difference between a house of worship and a local house of worship?
Well, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
Initially, the goal was to have a house of worship on every continent. And then as Baha'i populations grew, were the nations that had started to have higher proportion of Baha'is in the population, we were starting to build national houses of worship. And then the local areas, like I say, where a local areas, it really has a lot of Baha'is and a lot going on, then local houses of worship could be built. And we do have, like in the particularly all around the world, we have a lot of communities have centers. The community is able to somehow put together a center and use that, but it's not quite the same as a house of worship in a sense. Okay.
And the uniqueness about the houses of worship also is that they have 9 sides representing those 9 major religions, and that all are welcome, and it's for prayer and meditation. And music that is conducted in any house of worship is only voice. There are no musical instruments.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And they're open to anybody who wants to come in. People you can visit, come attend there'll be a service of some sort there every day, and you can come and be part of that, or you can just come in and pray, meditate on your own. It's like I say, it's open to the world. This is the one that in the United States. It's in Wilmette, Illinois. And it was actually Abdu'l-Baha, when he was in the United States, he laid the foundation stone for it. And when he laid that foundation stone, he said, the house of worship is built, even though they were still gaining funds and everything. Yeah. There's a lot of inspirational stories about how those are built and sacrifices that people have made for it. I couldn't tell you what all of them are. I know this was one in Kampala, Africa, which was completed in the 50s.
Yeah.
I believe this is Panama.
No, the next one I think is Panama.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe in the middle one that looks like a lotus is India.
India, yeah, yeah.
And Chile is the one that looks like sails.
Yeah.
And the grapefruit or the lemon squeezer is Frankfurt, Germany.
One in the corner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this right here.
They all have a dome. And in the center of the dome is the oculus, which is the calligraphy for the greatest name, which is Baha'u'llah.
Okay.
It's really cool.
And so any more questions about any of that? So really kind of the gist of what we did want to give kind of overall understanding and picture of the faith. So of course the main message here is what's the Baha'i view on death and the life of the soul, I guess is the best way to put it. And so Carol's going to take over for that.
Okay. I was going to go back to, can I go back by just, your little
Oh, no,
mouse
no,
doesn't work.
yeah,
I have to do it that way, right? Okay. I was going to go back to this one here. This was laying that the principle of the oneness of religion is that they all come from God, and then you'll see similar things within religions, especially the Golden Rule. And these are from different scriptures talking about the soul and the life after the soul. So we can see in the Gita is, then at death he will be united with me, be certain of that. Ecclesiastes, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. The Quran, soon ye return to us, and we will let you know what ye have done. For unto God shall be the final gathering. The Bab said, all men have proceeded from God, and unto him shall all return. And Baha'u'llah says, verily we are God's, and unto him we do return. So I just wanted to share that little piece there. So the Baha'is believe that life of the individual begins at conception, and that's when the soul associates with the embryo. So the exact moment, no one knows, but that's when the soul associates with the body. And when death occurs, that body returns to the dust. And when the soul continues its progress to the spiritual world. Is it lining up okay?
Oh.
Abdul-Baha said to consider that after the death of the body, the spirit perishes. It is like imagining that a bird in a cage will be destroyed if the cage is broken. Though the bird has nothing to fear from the destruction of the cage. Our body is like the cage and the spirit is like the bird, and if the cage becomes broken, the bird will continue to exist. Its feelings will be even more powerful and its perceptions greater and its happiness increased. Just go down. There we are. Come on. Did it move? Maybe I need to have you do the slides for me. I'm reading them off of the.
Just slide this here. There we go. All right.
Technical difficulty. Yep, looks good. Next
Okay.
one. Next one. Too far. There we go.
Okay.
So after the association of the body draws to a close, the soul will continue to progress in an eternal journey towards perfection. It will manifest the signs of God and his attributes and will reveal his loving kindness and bounty. What that new life will look like, Baha'is do not believe that it'll be a body. And so it's not going to be a physical form. It might be an orb of light for all I know. An illumined soul continues to have its influence on progress in this world and advancement of its peoples. It acts as the leaven that leaveneth the world of being and furnisheth the power through which the arts and wonders of the world are made manifest. Next. Here we go. The world beyond, writes Baha'u'llah, is as different from this world as this world is different from that of the child while still in the womb of its mother. So we think about that womb, you're developing arms and legs in the womb. Don't know what they're for until you get to this life. In this life, we develop spiritual qualities because that's what we take with us in the next world, our spiritual qualities, which would be generosity and kindness and service to others, those types of things. And in this light, death is not to be feared. Baha'u'llah refers to it as a messenger of joy. Thou art my dominion, and my dominion perisheth not. Wherefore fearest thou thy perishing? Thou art my light, and my light shall never be extinguished. Why dost thou dread extinction? Thou art my glory, and my glory fadeth not. Thou art my robe, and my robe shall never be outworn. He also writes, sorrow not if in these days and on this earthly plane things contrary to your wishes have been ordained and manifest by God. For days of blissful joy, of heavenly delight are assuredly in store for you. Worlds holy and spiritually glorious will be unveiled to your eyes. Ye are destined by him in this world and hereafter to partake of their benefits, to share in their joys, and to obtain a portion of their sustaining grace. To each and every one of them you will no doubt attain. So the nature of the soul and the afterlife. In the Baha'i faith, the soul is considered eternal and independent of the physical body. When the person dies, their soul transitions to the next stage of existence and is no longer tied to the material world. The physical body is seen as a temporary vessel of the soul during its earthly life. At death, the body returns to the earth, but the soul continues its eternal journey toward God. This aligns with the idea that the soul is not bound by physical constraints and events like a bodily resurrection. Baha'is do not believe in a physical resurrection of the body. Instead, the resurrection described in religious scriptures is understood metaphorically, symbolizing spiritual awakening rather than a literal reanimation of physical bodies. As to the soul of man after death, it remains in the degree of purity to which it has evolved during life in the physical body, and after it is freed from the body, it remains plunged in the ocean of God's mercy. From the moment the soul leaves the body and arrives in the heavenly world, its evolution is spiritual, and that evolution is the approaching unto God. As to your question concerning reincarnation, not that you asked it, but we're telling you. So there are many of the letters that have been in correspondence that Abdu'l-Baha wrote to the friends as well as Shoghi Effendi. They were usually answering questions that people had put to them. So in this one is, as to your question regarding reincarnation, the Baha'i view of the life after death can in no way be reconciled with certain Indian and Sufi doctrines that teach that the human soul can pass from one body to another. Baha'u'llah teaches that after its separation from the body, the human soul begins to lead a new life of which we can have no definite knowledge, in the same way as the child in the embryo cannot visualize the type of life it is destined to lead in this world. Again, that connection in the womb world versus this world and the world to come. And heaven and hell. Heaven and hell are not physical locations in the Baha'i understanding, but are conditions of the soul as in its closeness or its remoteness from God. A soul that is near to God experiences joy and fulfillment, which is described as heaven or paradise, while a soul that is distanced from itself from God through its actions experiences hell and remoteness from God. Abdu'l-Baha stated that reality of man is his thought and not his material body. Although man is part of the animal creation, he possesses a power of thought superior to all other created beings. The reality of man is his thought, not his material body. He goes on to say, although man is part of the animal creation, he possesses a power of thought superior to all other created things. If a man's thought is constantly aspiring towards heavenly subjects, then does he become saintly? If, on the other hand, his thought does not soar, it is directed downwards to center itself upon the things of this world, and he grows more and more material until he arrives at a state little better than that of a mere animal. So some of the laws and ordinances, these are found in what Baha'u'llah has written as the Kitabi Aqdas, which is the most holy book, and it has guidance as well as laws, admonitions. And the first law is prayer and fasting, and prayer is like light, or I'm sorry, fasting is like light, and prayer is like a ladder of ascent for the soul. We have marriage and divorce laws. We have education of children as being a law. Having a trade or occupation is a law. Obedience to one's government is a law. Baha'is are supposed to not become embroiled in partisan politics, though they are part of the body politic and they can vote, but to be embroiled in the partisan, which is divisive rather than in unifying, it serves no purpose. The use of alcohol and drugs are forbidden, except under a physician's order. And we have burial laws.
Oh, and back on prayer, one of the things that the Baha'u'llah says is work done in the spirit of service is a form of prayer.
So that's what you're doing. You're work
Yeah.
in service to those who are moving on to that next life. So it is like a prayer. You're walking a prayer every day.
So what are the laws on marriage and divorce?
Marriage and divorce, marriage is between a man and a woman. Marriage must, the two that are going to be married must seek the approval of both sets of living parents. So again, you're building an extended family, so you want unity where you can have it. And if a parent says, this isn't a good match for you, then you don't have a Baha'i marriage. That doesn't mean you might not go and have another, civil marriage or something else. But the law is, if you're following the law for Baha'is, that you would have permission from your parents. There's more to the marriage laws, but that's usually the most important one. And divorce, I'm trying to think, because it's not something that you have to be married as long as I have. It's not something that I've encountered. Do you have?
Yeah, there's if you are, if you separate, you're supposed to go through like a year of patience, both parties.
Oh, that's right.
Before, without becoming involved with another person and just wait, going through and trying maybe to work things back out. I'd say divorce is discouraged, but it's not prohibited. And the idea is if you can save the marriage, and make all effort to do so, and take that time.
Yeah,
So.
I'd forgotten that you consult with an assembly, set a year of patience where you're working and you live separately. It boo-booed up there. Living separately, but working on reconciling. But if for some reason it's, there is a word, and I can't think of what it is, where abhorrence, where it's like it needs to be separated. It's back into it where you can correct it. So I don't know what you need to do there. Just click on it.
Oh, yeah.
Will you talk about burial?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be the,
Yeah. That's coming up.
Okay, here we go.
So on burial, the body must be buried, not cremated, unless the law requires it. Or if you're in a fire, what are you going to do? Right? No embalming, dust to dust.
It's certainly discouraged. I mean, there's might be a point where, of course, now, with technology, they can preserve bodies for quite a while, but, it's discouraged. The idea is to keep it as natural as you can. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the body is to be washed and anointed with rose water or attar of rose. The body is to be shrouded in fine silk or cotton. And the body is not to be transported more than an hour's journey from the place of death. And the method of transport is not specified, but the journey must not take longer than an hour. So if you go in a helicopter further, then you can be buried for a further distance from where you actually died. But there's lots of speculation as to why Baha'u'llah said that, but there were historically there would be families that say, please, on my deathbed, please, would you bury me in Mecca or wherever you wanted to go? And so the families go to great debt trying to fulfill the wishes of the departed. And this says just an hour's journey from the place of death. And of course, if burial sooner rather than later for a variety of reasons, having to refrigerate the body, etc.
So one question with
Yes.
that, obviously us being hospice providers, one of the things that we help families with a lot at the time of death is helping to clean the body and to redress the body of the deceased. Is this something that a family of the Baha'i faith would like to have hospice participate in that, or are they more private and say, no, this is a family thing, we do this to care for our deceased, or how can hospice support somebody from your faith?
So I would say that it varies very widely. There are some who actually want the morticians to prepare the body for them. There are others who want to prepare the body themselves. I personally would love to have somebody, help. So I think it has to do with consulting with the family and asking them what they would prefer, actually, because it really does vary. I have attended only 2 preparations of the body in my lifetime so far, and most people find it part of closure, and they appreciate doing it, and that love and care, because we know that body has been the vessel of the soul, so that respect of that body is really important. And I think working in hospice that you recognize that as well, that gentleness and care.
Yeah. From my own viewpoint, I can barely even fold my own T-shirts to put away things, so I would really appreciate some help.
Yeah, and with that burial shroud, that actually says 5 lengths, and so it's a certain way you fold it. I've watched the Muslim way of doing it. It seems to be very similar. One that will end up being over the head and strips to tie. I laughingly said to a friend just yesterday, actually, I said, I have a king size cotton white sheet. Just roll me up in it and tie me up. I'm good. But there are those who want to follow it, to the letter, and are very careful about studying how to do that with the five lengths of cloth. Yeah.
Mine of rose water, what's the?
I don't know the significance of that, but I think, perhaps it's, and a lot of people also put rose petals in the coffin as well. And why attar of rose and rose water, I don't know, except that it is lovely to anoint a body. Yeah.
It's usually, and roses are used a lot as a metaphor in the Baha'i writings too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
So if you live here and you're visiting in Israel and you die in Israel, you have to stay there.
I had to tell my in-laws that when we went on pilgrimage, and they said, no, we're bringing you back. I said, if you want to obey what our laws are, you will leave me in Israel. That's where it will be. That, it makes it difficult for, if you want to pay ahead of time for your burial, it's like, oh, I'm traveling and I'm back in Virginia and I've got my little plot here in Spokane. Yeah.
Although one thing I've learned, in looking at, into funerals is most funeral homes, I know the ones here in Coeur d'Alene, you can go ahead and pay for your funeral, make the arrangements, and it will transfer to other places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If not, they'll transfer the funds that you put in to where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of took that worry off of my mind because I wanted to have it taken care of, so it wasn't a burden for our kids. And so I thought, once I heard that, I said, that's great, so it's all set up. Yeah. So I happened to be somewhere else.
So going on with that, part of that burial includes a ring with the inscription, I came from God and unto him, return unto him, should be placed on a finger. It doesn't say which finger, but on a finger. And the coffin should be made of durable material, hardwood, as durable as possible. And I don't know about crystal and stone, but,
Yeah.
and the grave should be positioned with the deceased feet facing the point of adoration, which would be the burial spot of Baha'u'llah. Here it's about northwest 19 degrees, is it? Something like that.
Okay.
Baha'is can donate their bodies to science for medical research and organ transplant, but they should specify that the body, the temple of the soul, should be treated with dignity and respect and is not to be cremated. So you could help those who are saying, well, can we donate? You can reassure them that Baha'is can donate and to science or organ.
And sometimes by circumstances, there are funds to help because obviously cremation is less expensive and for families there is funds to help with that. If it's still not possible to work that out, it's not like the soul is punished if the body is cremated. It's just the ideal way the best way to, for the body to go back naturally to the earth.
Yeah, I think Abdu'l-Baha had a statement about that as the body is first formed from the embryo and it develops, it's a slow process. And that the body, when it goes back to the earth, should also have that same slow process, whatever they may, very, very natural, not sped up.
If possible.
If possible, right. There's always, like during the pandemic, everyone was like, oh, what are the guidance now? Does it have to be isolated or, will you have to have a cremation, whatever.
Yeah.
So that was addressed by the Universal House of Justice for us. Yeah, next.
Oops, there we go. No.
Is that the one? Okay,
No,
so
there
there is one prayer that is required before internment for Baha'is, and this one is it's confusing. It's the only prayer that's read in congregation, but what is meant by congregation in this instance is that all are standing, and one person recites the prayer, and the prayer has the word Allahu Abha, and then 19 times, we all verily worship God, 19 times. And then another Allahu Abha, and we all verily bow down before God. And then another Allahu Abha, we all verily are devoted unto God. Another Allahu Abha, we all verily give praise unto God. Allahu Abha, we all verily yield thanks unto God. Allahu Abha, we all verily are patient in God. And each of those phrases are 19 times.
Okay. And again, this is, it could be, at the gravesite, it could be after the body's been prepared, it could be, in a memorial service. As long as it's said before the body is actually
Interred.
Yeah.
Can I ask what is the significance of 19 times?
It's in the Book of Laws. I don't know why 19 times. I know, and it's for someone who hasn't heard it before, they go, this is long. And I actually don't know, except that we do know that 9 is the highest single number. And so 9 is important for Baha'is. And 19 is an important number for Baha'is, and 95 is an important number for Baha'is. So of that, I don't know that I can elaborate at all. Or
each faith that brings a new calendar is established with each faith. And in the Baha'i calendar, which of course has not at all, is pretty much only we go by it, and we have to also live in our existing calendar. So we have the year has 19 months of 19 days, and then with a few days left over, we call the intercalary days that have kind of a special meaning too. But so you can see 19 is very prevalent. Also on those, in that month, we have our one community meeting, which is called a feast, which is a gathering for devotions, discussing community business and social. And so 19, like I said, just seems to prevail through the writings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I personally don't understand the whole significance of it.
yeah, and we're finishing up today the month of fasting. So it will end at sunset today, and then the new year is
No, no ruse. Yeah.
Nauru is a new day. New Year is spring, the spring
First day of spring,
equinox.
yeah.
So that's part of our calendar as well.
So by fasting, I mean, did you go 30 days without eating anything, or is it just certain times of the day?
So yeah, so it's certain times it's similar to Islam in that way. It's from sunset to sunrise is when it's so at sunrise you start fasting, sunset you stop fasting for 19 days. And in that fasting, it's no food, no drink, no chewing gum unless, no cigarettes, whatever. It's all those things that have to do with the material world. And the focus is on prayer and rejuvenating your soul to greet the new year. And so for 19 days, it is just during that sunrise to sunset that you're fasting. So this is a newly translated prayer. So we haven't said that the Baha'u'llah wrote in Arabic and Persian. And so there are a lot of things that are still not translated. So when we talk about 100 volumes, it's huge amounts of tablets. And this one was, I think about 3 years ago, I think is when we got this translation. And I have a copy for all of you because it's such a beautiful prayer. And I think it's really a nice one as you're approaching death. And it says, "O Lord, grant me a measure of thy grace and loving kindness, thy care and protection, thy shelter and bounty, that the end of my days may be distinguished above their beginning, and the close of my life may open the portals of thy manifold blessings. May thy loving kindness and bounty descend upon me at every moment, and thy forgiveness and mercy be vouchsafed with every breath, until beneath the sheltering shadow of thine upraised standard, I may at last repair to the kingdom of the all-praised. Thou art the bestower, the ever-loving, and thou art verily the Lord of grace and bounty." And you'll notice with our prayers, they usually end with attributes of God: the all-knowing, the benevolent, the most generous, the all-loving. So our prayers are slightly different. Technical difficulty again.
I don't know what this do here. There we go.
So I'm just going to skip this. This is a prayer, some prayers that could be used while preparing the body. They're just a variety of prayers that are coming up now. The next one.
Can I just ask,
Uh-huh.
in terms of preparation of the body, because it is common practice for us that we do provide that postmortem care. And so is it the ask that we would contact somebody to provide that type of prayer during that time?
We would be available, yes, to do that. If it's a Baha'i that does not have family here that can come, yes, any of us would come and read prayers while the body is being prepared. Usually there would be some, a few people preparing a body and one person saying prayers, and they're copious amounts of prayers that are available. And I have some resources for you with prayers. We'll leave in a little notebook for you. We have the PowerPoint in the notebook. We also have all kinds of prayers and suggested music that if there was a Baha'i here that not all people like music or different styles, but I included some links to some Baha'i music that might be appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything that would be considered egregious if somebody were not present to perform that prayer?
No. Just, if
I mean, even if you were to say a prayer from your own faith background,
Yeah.
it certainly is good.
Mhm.
And I don't mean even. I mean that's just as welcome. I would say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what's next. I don't know what's coming up next.
Oops.
Oh, I was going to read the Sweet Sentence Dreams,
Okay.
but this is one that I like. I may as well read it. And it's not for passing death, death and dying. It's just one that's beautiful, because Baha'u'llah writes with a lot of metaphors, and it's just very soothing. It's from the sweet scented streams of thine eternity, give me to drink, O my God, and of the fruits of the tree of thy being, enable me to taste, O my hope. From the crystal springs of thy love, suffer me to quaff, O my glory. And beneath the shadow of thine everlasting providence, let me abide, O my light. Within the meadows of thy nearness, before thy presence, make me able to roam, O my beloved. And at the right hand of the throne of thy mercy, seat me, O my desire. From the fragrant breezes of thy joy, let a breath pass over me, O my goal. And into the heights of the paradise of thy reality, let me gain admission, O my adored one. To the melodies of the dove of thy oneness, suffer me to hearken, O resplendent one. And through the spirit of thy power and thy might, quicken me, O my provider. In the spirit of thy love, keep me steadfast, O my succorer. And in the path of thy good pleasure, set firm my steps, O my maker. Within the garden of thine immortality, before thy countenance, let me abide forever. O thou who art merciful unto me. And upon the seat of thy glory, establish me, O thou who art my possessor. To the heaven of thy loving kindness, lift me up, O my quickener. And unto the day star of thy guidance, lead me, O thou my attractor. Before the revelations of thine invisible spirit, summon me to be present, O thou who art my origin and my highest wish. And unto the essence of the fragrance of thy beauty, which thou wilt manifest, cause me to return, O thou who art my God. Potent art thou to do what pleaseth thee. Thou art verily the most exalted, the all-glorious, the all-highest. And this is another prayer that's specifically for women. So they're also with all of the Baha'i prayers, if Baha'u'llah has written them in the male pronoun, him, servant, they're to be read that way and not change the gender. There are specific prayers written for maidservants and women. The only prayer in which you change the gender is that prayer at death, the one for internment, and then it's her and she, or him and he. And as we all know, God knows what's in our heart. So it's even if you accidentally start reading a prayer and you didn't look at the title of what it was going to be, and it's for the pregnant woman, and you're talking about in my womb, which has been done by men, it's like it's that God knows. It's okay.
And I also part of the afterlife, the life of the soul, is there's no gender in the next world. So
Yeah, I think that's very important too, that we're genderless in the next world. Yeah. Next.
oops.
Yeah, so these are just some suggestions about preparation of the body. And this is stuff you probably already know. You know, that some people don't want people crying over them, and other people, that's how they show their grief. And so we just have to bear in mind that, it needs to match what your heart is telling you, as well as what the guidance might be for whoever you're serving. So these are just some suggestions that I happen to come across about what you might find in a world religion that is in all of these countries around the globe. All of them will have different expectations as to what is, expected to be grieving or not grieving. Just like when you show reverence to somebody that is, let's say, a king in one country, you bow down lower than the king, and the other ones you stand in front of them. So it has to do with, I guess, when in Rome, do it. Yeah. So that's just some extra things there. I didn't want to belabor it too much. Next one. So might address decide who will prepare the body, and that probably would be as usual when you speak with the families that have the loved one has come in, ask them ahead of time what they prefer, and so this guidance should be there for you. Prayers. You don't have to do the anointing, but if a parent or a family member's around, that would be helpful. And then the next two slides are basically music suggesting, and the next one are other videos about the Baha'i faith. And besides the notebook we're going to leave with you, this is a brand new compilation that people have put out. It's called Pause and Reflect, Meditations for the Life of the Soul. So we were going to leave a copy of that, and it just has little short things. And that one prayer about preparing for death, I mentioned that I have some on little cards so that if you wanted to have those available. So I'll leave those as well.
And
Yeah.
you can take them as individuals,
Yep, you can have them.
If you found it, something that you'd
Yeah.
like to have.
Yeah. And so are there any other questions that you have that we didn't cover or answer sufficiently, or I don't know what our time frame is.
We have time.
Yeah,
I
so
may have missed it. But in terms of like funeral homes, are there,
Sorry.
I was just curious about, in terms of funeral homes locally and some of the practices that you guys have, like you're talking about with wrapping the body and not cremation and ensuring burial within proximity of an hour. Are there particular funeral homes that support those practices, or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I know we worked with Yates. Margaret was one of a member of our community was a neighbor of one of the Yates family. The last time a Baha'i passed away in this area,
Thank you.
that's what I kind of mentioned. That might kind of things about preparing for funerals and things like that. They're really there's good work, but I think other members of our community have been through that. That was an angry.
Yeah.
And I don't really know.
Okay.
Whatever the family is
As elected.
to look into and
Okay.
see it. I know the Yates seem to be pretty familiar with how to handle the remains of the person that had passed away.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He didn't have the microphone on.
yeah. I do remember when it was Kristen that they were very keen to, when I came in and I said, I have some rose petals, so can you add this to, and we have a ring now, because we had to see who had a ring in the community. And he says, oh, it'll be no problem. And he was very, very helpful and cooperative. Yeah. So I don't think they know totally all of the practices, and I'm almost spurred after this to think that maybe we should approach the funeral homes and say, can we give you a presentation?
And actually, there's a packet that's prepared by our national assembly here that can be presented to funeral homes to help give background. And I think we're probably a little remiss in getting those out. So.
I think so, that's what you just
Yep,
said. in the
yes.
packet. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the thumb drive in the notebook with the PowerPoint, and then there's all in the notebook also. The PowerPoint is printed out, so everything that we've talked about is here, and then this other little notebook in the very, very back is additional prayers. So this would have a lot of Baha'i prayers in it, and a little bit about the talk as well. We're in different stages of preparing this.
And you can always contact Carol or I, and we can email you the PowerPoint presentation if the thumb drive doesn't work for any reason. Yeah.
So you can email it to me. I'll remind you. I'll send you an email to remind me.
I'll just email too. Okay, sure.
perfect.
And I think we have a, like a business card in here too, so that
Good.
if you have someone that is in hospice and family is not here, you can contact us, and I'd be more than happy to, actually be very happy to be of service.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to you guys. We have done these for a long time now and had various faith groups come in to talk to us about death and dying and what that looks like for that particular group. And for me, this has probably been the most informative around the tangible pieces and aspects at end of life and at the time of death. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that from you guys.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
It's great, very, very great information, applicable information
Oh,
to
thank
share
you.
with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Good, nice, good feedback.
And I guess I did have one other question, where you mentioned the use of alcohol and drugs is prohibited except for under a doctor's orders. Obviously we do have physicians and nurse practitioners that oversee the care and write the orders for what medications are being used for the patients that are under our services. And so I'm assuming it's probably just at the individual's preferences for care, as long as a physician or another provider is providing orders for those medications for managing their symptoms, that generally those kind of medications are okay for use.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I remember listening to one of the other presentations, is that, I mean, not that we're speeding death,
Yeah.
but we're making people comfortable.
Yes.
And so and that's why if it's under a doctor's orders, then by all means, this is to keep us, keep our minds from being basically destroyed by, recreational use that then becomes habitual and becomes actually, rather it appears as it's a prohibition, but it's really a grace and a saving law, basically.
And one of the principles we didn't mention in the Baha'i faith is the harmony of science and religion. Science is part of the natural world that God created, and we're encouraged to be, fully invested in that. Science, religion without science, doesn't really have reason, and science without religion doesn't really have, moral purpose. So they're both very important that they're kind of mingled.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.